Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. I think this is the second part of the presentation, technical features and applications. My name is Johannes von Weissenhoff. I am the chair of the technical committee of the DRM consortium, and I'm also the CEO of Starwaves. And now I'm going to tell a little bit about technical specifications, but also about applications. So I think you saw this slide before. It's quite an important slide because it has many information in an overview. I would emphasize on the direct digital successor technology for analog AM and FM because DRM is exactly also working in those bands. So let's have a look at the DRM features, services, and benefits. The advantages of digital radio obviously are clear. I think you've seen that slide before. More data per kilohertz. This means more audio services, better audio quality up until surround sound. Lots of multimedia stuff, better coverage, no fiddling with frequencies. Instead of that, you have automatic tuning with station names, etc. And you've got a lot of extra features like we mentioned emergency warning here. Yeah, but what are all these things? So let's try to go a little bit more in detail. So here we already come to the first revenue potential. Instead of one audio service, you have three. It means you can triple the income of one radio station, obviously, but you can also have pop-up stations like for concerts or sports events, which can also generate extra revenue for you. And thanks to the XHE-AAC audio codec, we can really have very good audio quality even on all three services. Of course, also multilingual services we can have here, and we can attract new audiences that might have been left behind before. Now, that's of course not all. So we can have a look at other available features than audio. Well, you've got your station names, of course, you know them from RDS as well. But here now you've also got station logos. So they are not like coming from a database, they're really transmitted over the air. So if a logo changes, it can also immediately be shown. If you have a pop-up station or an event, you can show a dynamic logo. Then you've got text messages, also those long text messages, they will be there after some seconds. They won't take as long as, for example, if they have to be transmitted with RDS, that can take sometimes a minute or more. And then, but to the much higher data rates, you really have real multimedia applications like your journal line, hyperlink text sites. You have picture slideshows, and you've got a full-blown electronic program guide. So let's have a look at those applications, multimedia applications. We always spoke about them. So how can they benefit the listeners, and what are these applications? So we have listed some here, but it can also be anything else. It can just be news, it can be sports information, it can be weather information, it can be very detailed for farmers, for example, that they know when they have to bring in their crops. You can have job boards. What we have listed here, of course, is emergency warning. You all know that. We've got radio schooling. You can feed public signage kiosks with DRM, so they don't need to have any extra network connection. They will just come up DRM, and of course traffic services. So emergency warning functionality. So this functionality can really help saving lives. And I mean, more and more you see what's happening in the world, natural disasters, wars, terrorist attacks, whatever happens. The first thing that would go down is always your 3G connections or your mobile connections. but yeah, radio is there to stay. But other than the FM radio that you really have to find the frequency, you have to switch it on. This radio will automatically switch on. When something happens, it will alert you and it gives you visual information, what you have to do. It can be a lot more detailed than what you can have only on an analog radio station. So the digital radio is with you from A to Z. It can already prepare people with programs. Then at the time when it happens, there is an instant warning there. But also after that, it can give information to supporters, and it can also for after the disaster, you will still might find that your networks might be not operational for a long time. You still have a medium that works and it can take you for a long time. But let's come to another very, very important part. I'm maybe a bit emotional about this one because it's the thing that really might have been the most imminent problem that you can see. You know, in the Latin American and Caribbean region, according to some researchers from World Bank and others, this region has actually hit by a learning crisis with worse consequences that the South African continent has ever experienced before. And for example, the average child of 15 years is 5 years behind the educational level of a child in an OECD country. So this is due to the fact that the region experienced the world's most prolonged school closures due to COVID-19. So 170 million children missed in-person education for about 50% of the school days during the COVID period from March 20 to 22, which resulted in over 50% of the children that are in really learning poverty, what we call it. So they are unable to read or understand a simple text by the age of 10. This has long-lasting consequences. At the moment, we can say that children that are currently in school, they may lose up to 12% of their lifetime earnings due to this disruption. This is a very, very important fact, and of course, everybody is trying to do something against it. And we know that you do your best, like everyone else is trying to do their best, and we also try to do our best. But yeah, another problem in the region is that if you look at the poor households in the region, and you can say that around 45% of the students within the poor households, they don't have any access to internet. So all these nice e-learning programs and apps and stuff that have been developed, unfortunately, is only available to half of the children in the region. So what happens to the other half? How can they be served? Additionally to what's happening in the schools, which is not enough. So this is where DRM really can be a game changer, and because it can cover those regions that are not covered by the internet. Have a look at what is a life cycle of a signal could be. So you have your content, obviously, you can take it from existing e-learning solutions or whatever. You can transmit it from a broadcasting station that can either be within a country or even outside a country. It can be, depending on your application, a shortwave transmission, or it can be an FM transmission, digital FM, of course, DRM transmission from a local community radio station. Whatever it is, it can be received in a digital DRM receiver, and the content can then distribute it from a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot and reach children with their end devices, like some cheap tablets or whatever you can give to them, but they don't need internet to connect. So this is what it could look like on the end device. This is an example for some mathematic lessons, and yeah, So here is also an example for a quiz. So interactive activities are also possible. Let's come back to a little bit more technicalities. We're talking about DRM coverage. You know that DRM has the ability to meet really every need that is there, from local coverage from VHF band 3 or band 2, which we know as the FM band, up to hundreds or even thousands of kilometers over medium or shortwave. Everything is possible, and all the features that you have seen, like emergency warning, pictures, slideshows, journal line, whatever I just spoke about, all these features are available in all modes. So they are available in FM band and on the shortwave, for example, as well. Let's have a look specifically first at the AM band. Now, what is important for you to know is it's the standard, and it's endorsed by ITU. So the DRM standard can work everywhere in the world. It's also compatible with your spectrum. You are in ITU region 2. It means in the medium wave you have 10 kilohertz spacing or 20 kilohertz spacing that is working in your region. It works, of course, also in other regions with 9 kilohertz spacing. And yeah, if you have a 20 kilohertz bandwidth in medium wave, it can work up to 72 kilobits per second, which already is quite a lot. Otherwise, it will be less. It's very flexible in the configuration, robustness, coverage, and transmission power, this triangle, and it covers large areas also with single frequency networks. I think this is important specifically for medium wave, because sometimes you have to use different frequencies that have to be regulated. But here you can cover a country with one frequency, even if you use several transmitters. So if you have 3 or 4 frequencies, you can use them for different networks, and that gives you a lot more space for programs. Now, another very important aspect is energy saving. As you know, a third of the transmission power is just wasted only by transmitting the carrier in AM. It doesn't carry any content. It's just a waste of energy. This is completely not happening with DRM. And also you have got 2 sidebands. The information is basically replicated on both sidebands. So yeah, you actually need only 1 sideband. So actually you need only a third for the information. And this is actually really reflecting on the digital information. You can say that you have over 40% energy saving just by using DRM instead of analog AM. Of course, this is for up to 3 services, whilst on the analog program, of course, you have only 1 service. So if you want to calculate it per program, the efficiency is even higher. There is a DRM efficiency calculator. If you use this QR code, then you can put in some parameters, and it will maybe calculate you the energy that you can save. And of course, if you are interested, you can also email us. The last thing about simulcasting, if you want to move your broadcast from analog to digital or migrate from analog to digital, some people, they might be disappointed if suddenly the AM program disappears. So you have the possibility to do a so-called simulcast. That means you can add a digital signal to your existing analog signal. Of course, not with the full transmission power, then the power has to be split between the analog and the digital signal. But for the introduction of DRM, I think it's perfect because you can introduce the technology by telling people still using the analog medium to inform them that you are going to switch to digital and that they should get a digital receiver. So now let's have a look at the DRM in the FM band. Also here, you have a great possibility of configuration. You can always have a trading between coverage, transmission power, and capacity, depending on the needs and on your coverage, or let's say of your terrain capabilities. You can configure it perfectly. Also here we have great savings. Here the savings are even bigger. You can save up to 90% of power. This would be for fixed reception. If you have a moving reception, like for car radios, you have still a saving of let's say a 1 to 4. Then of course you have 3 services, definitely 3 services here instead of 1. So per service, you really have a huge energy saving. And that energy saving is not only affecting your transmission power, it's also affecting the other components like your air conditioning that you need for the room, because the heat that will be disseminated from the transmitter is much less than it would be from your analog transmitter. So the operational costs are really going to be much, much lower. We've got a little price example, what you're going to save in OpEx compared per service from analog to digital. You can keep these numbers, but yeah, the information will be made available also later on. So another important point is spectrum efficiency. As you know, you've got your FM band probably congested, like everywhere in the world. A lot of analog stations are trying to squeeze into the limited spectrum that you have. Here we have got the spectrum of the city of Johannesburg in South Africa. As you can imagine, it's a 6 million inhabitants city with a lot of public, commercial, and community radio stations. And the band is quite congested. There is a moratorium for many, many years right now for new frequencies. Community radio stations are quite upset. There's new initiatives, but they won't be given any frequencies because there is no spectrum. You cannot put in another radio station in here. However, if you look at the little white spaces that would be there for digital, because the signal is much smaller, right? You see there is quite a lot of space for digital DRM signals. So if you add them up in total, we would have space for approximately 50 additional radio programs without reshuffling any frequency, without trying to reduce the power of AM of the FM stations or something. So every of these little red symbols that you see there would be space for 1 DRM, and you see there is also 1 or 2 spaces where it would be even space for 2 DRM signals. Now, if you have 2 DRM signals, then you will double the amount of services. So the double bandwidth means instead of 3, you can have 6 DRM radio programs on 1 transmitter. Now this is a new thing because you don't need 2 separate transmitters. You can broadcast all of this from 1 transmitter. We call this multi-channel DRM. Now I just want to quickly also tell you about the multi-channel DRM because you can actually have a lot of different radio signals broadcasted on 1 transmitter. Here we have an example that came from India. Of course, it's just an example. It can be done with any amount. It can be 4, it can be 2, it can be 3, or it can also be analog and digital together, like the simulcast that we showed earlier. So any combination is possible, and it can all be broadcast from 1 transmitter, even with different power levels. So you can simulate here, like for a community radio station that might need less power level than a commercial station. You can also configure that all on 1 transmitter. This, of course, again, will cost you a lot. Will give you a lot of cost savings. Why? Because the infrastructure of transmitters can be shared. It needs only one times the space, it needs only one time the energy, and it needs only one time the administration. But these blocks, as you see them here, can be completely used by independent broadcasters. They don't need to share any configuration. They don't need to share content, or they don't even need to share the link from their studio to the transmitter side. That can all be individual. So it could be treated like if there were different transmitters, even at different transmitter stations, but in reality it's only one transmitter. So very, very cost efficient and very, very flexible. Okay, I'm coming now to DRM receivers. There are a lot of different receivers available. As you know, India, of course, has implemented DRM for some years now. And since 2018, I think car manufacturers have started to equip cars with DRM receivers. These days, we have more than 6 million cars on the road of different brands that include DRM receivers or infotainment systems that are DRM capable. And most cars that you find these days on the road, they with infotainment systems, any Mercedes, any Volkswagen, even any BMW, any car that use the standard chipsets, let's say from NXP, they are hardware-wise already capable of using DRM. It's then just a matter of the software infotainment system to implement the reception of DRM. So even those cars that don't have DRM at the moment, it will not be a big effort to switch them to DRM. There's also the possibility to add DRM to mobile phones. As you know, there are a couple of mobile phones that have a built-in FM receiver where you can listen to analog FM. This chipset, in some of the cases at least, is a digital chipset, and as DRM in the FM band is using the same frequencies as FM in analog, it would also be just a software enhancement of those mobile phones to make them DRM capable. Then, of course, the home radios for DRM that are also available. So there are a number of brands that are making DRM receivers, and I think they are becoming more by the day. And here is a little selection of radios and also modules. What is important, I think even more important than radio receivers, is the capability that you can make receivers in your country, because you also want to create jobs, and you don't always want to be dependent on imports of devices. So there are currently already 3 manufacturers that are making modules, and these modules can be used by receiver manufacturers to equip their radios with DRM. And I think it's a very nice way for the introduction, and before maybe one day the entire radio can be designed and built by a Brazilian company. Okay, one of the module suppliers is the company CML Micro from the UK. They have a very smart module. It's small and it's very low in power consumption, and I think it's a great opportunity for specifically manufacturers who want to build very affordable receivers, small receivers, and pocket receivers that don't consume a lot of energy. All the details you will also find on their website, and these modules are available right now. They can be purchased online. There's also an app from Starwaves. This app is available on the Google App Store and also on Amazon. all you need is an RF dongle that you connect to your mobile phone, and this app costs you $5, and then you turn your tablet or your smartphone into a DRM receiver. There are also smart speakers with Android. Also, those can be used as DRM radios in combination with this app. It can also show the full set of features like you saw, the journal line, slideshows, etc. And so this can also be used for e-learning if needed. Then, of course, we at Starworks also have our own receivers. We just have the desktop receiver with the integrated Wi-Fi hotspot. We also offer a module which has the Wi-Fi chipset on board, as you can see here. So this module can be used for any radio that you want to build where you want that Wi-Fi functionality. In summary, there is a new generation of DRM receivers, a lot more powerful than what you might have seen some years back. Very high quality receivers, better improved reception. We've got graphics. Also, you've got car radios now, and you've got portable radios and desktops. And as I said, for the domestic markets or even for export, there are modules that can be used by the local industry. Great for your country. And yeah, that's it from my side. There is a handbook 5.1, the latest version. Please download it to learn more about DRM. And of course, you can find us on the usual suspects social media channels. And we also have quite a nice new website. And within the website, we have the short URL pocket.drm.org, which points you very quickly to everything relevant that you want to know if you have a quick research requirement. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed this little introduction. Thank you.